This is part two of my lecture slideshows on cinematography. In this one, we're going to talk more about what shots look like and how they're made. First, by talking about camera angle and height. So, one thing that we can discuss is, or use to describe what a shot looks like, is the shooting angle. And that refers to the level of and height of the camera in relation to the subject that is being shot. There are 5 basic camera angles that we generally discuss. There is eye level, high angle, in which the camera is high above the subject, low angle, in which it's below, Dutch angle, which basically means it's askew or crooked, 5 aerial view, which is what it sounds like from high above. And so now I'm going to show you some examples of these different things. So at the top right, this is a shot from North by Northwest. This is a high angle where we're looking down at our subjects. Below that, looking up, this is a low angle. And then with Frankenstein, this is an example of a Dutch angle. You can see how his head is coming from the corner of the screen instead of being level. Guess which one that is? This is eye level. This is a high angle, just slightly high. Again, these are both from going back to our images from Citizen Kane. And here's one that we saw earlier as an example of the wide shot. Not only is this a wide shot, but that's a low angle because as you can see, the camera is down low shooting these guys from down low. So those are all different ways to describe the camera angle in relation to the subject that we're seeing on screen. Moving on to the next area that is a part of cinematography and one of the responsibilities of the director of photography, that's composition. And composition basically means, as I said before, how you arrange the key subjects in the screen in order to balance them in a particular way to make your shot. In film and in photography too, there is what is known as the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds is simply a tool to go about arranging or composing a shot. It basically means that you divide the frame into thirds, both horizontally and vertically, in order to balance the composition. So often in film, what we're trying to do is make things so they aren't jarring to the person that's watching. We're supposed to a certain extent, be lost in the film, right? And things should be moving rather seamlessly in front of us. The rule of thirds is one way of going about doing that. And basically what it means is that you divide the horizontal and the vertical into these stages and that into thirds, and you arrange your subjects accordingly. Now, this image that we see here is an example of a very, very balanced composed shot. This is from The Shining, and you can see there are the 2 chairs in the foreground, and then there is the desk that the guy is sitting at in the middle, and then further back, that is the background with the window and the door. In the next slide, I'm going to show you some actual imposed lines here that show how the rule of thirds work. These are shots from The Graduate, probably my favorite film. If you paid attention to the introductory comments, I said that Star Wars once upon a time was my favorite film. Now I have to say The Graduate is probably my favorite film. But it is a really terrifically composed film. So in this top picture, you can see his head laying in the pool is in that third of the screen around that line and centered upon where these lines cross. So the idea with the rule of thirds is that you essentially want to compose your figures where the lines cross, rather than being, say, directly in the center. In the bottom shot, you can see that he more or less lines up with the line on the right, and the leg goes around that bottom line. So both those are examples of the rule of thirds. Another term that refers to cinematography is depth of field. Depth of field means how much of what is in front of the camera do we see that is in focus. And there are different approaches to how you use depth of field. There's what's called deep space composition, which means that all those planes of what's in front of us, the foreground, the middle ground, the background, all that stuff is in focus. We can see it all. That allows us to compose, or allows the director and the cinematographer to compose the subjects within the frame all through that space, because as a viewer, we can see it all. It's all in focus. So that's an interesting approach. Again, it's one that is used in Citizen Kane rather famously. But it also has some drawbacks, because if everything is in focus, then it's up to us as the viewer in terms of what we are going to be looking at any given time. So as opposed to deep space composition, there's also having a shallow depth of field. And this means that only one of those planes is in focus. So we can only see the foreground, the middle ground, or the background. And of course, one thing that you can do is, as a cinematographer, you rack focus, which means you change which field is in focus, so our attention can go from one to the next. On the right, this is a famous shot from Citizen Kane, in which back in the window we can see a boy playing, and it isn't always in focus, but it changes while his mom is signing him away to go off and be put through school by this mysterious man. Slowly we see him in focus, out playing in the snow and having a good time. Now, when we're talking about cameras, of course, the cameras work because of the lenses that they have. And they have different kinds of lenses, and that's how we get different kinds of shots. Not just moving the camera themselves, but using different kinds of lenses. So, how do lenses differ? One way they differ is that they have different angles of view. And that means how much do you see what's in front of you. And, you know, we all have played around a little bit with cameras or our phones in terms of changing a zoom. And you know, it's not just bringing you closer, but of course, how much you see, how wide it is, that changes as well. So the longer that a lens is, the less space you see in front of you. So with something like a telephoto lens, like you might see somebody who has a big expensive camera, or someone you know, taking pictures at a sporting event or whatever, they have those huge telephoto lenses. They allow them to get really close, but it's a very narrow angle of view. The depth of field changes. How much can be in focus changes as you are wider, you have a greater depth of field. You can see more, but as you're telephoto, that depth of field also becomes less. So they differ in terms of their angle of view, their depth of field, but also their perspective. And so what perspective means is that, is it as we see normally through our everyday eyes, unaided by any kind of lens, or is there some kind of altered perspective? Does it look different? Is it like how the human eye sees things, or is there something artistic about it? So different lenses can add a different kind of perspective. And wide angle lenses, for example, distort things. They make them look like they're further away than they really are. And telephoto lens, that very long lens, also flattens perspective and makes it so we can't really tell how far away something is. Now, I'm going to, in the next slide, play a scene for you, a famous scene actually from The Graduate. And in this scene, the main character is on the run. He's trying to stop a wedding before it's finished. And he's having all kinds of problems getting there with he ran out of gas and all kinds of terrible things happen. And so now he's trying to run. And I want you to pay attention to how long it takes him to run and how it seems like he's not really getting anywhere. This is all accomplished by using a telephoto lens and changing the focus. Guess what? As the music slows down, he's running out of gas. And he's going to sit there and he's going to try to start his car, but he really wants to stop a wedding, so now he's running. And he's running some more. And we're about to get to the shot that I really want you to see, as he's going to come around the corner. Here we go. Now look at this. Notice how he stays the same size in the frame for quite a long time, and how fast he's running, but he's still staying the same size. It's like almost that he's in the same position as he's running all the way to the camera. And finally, he's made it to the church. And that is going to be the end of this slideshow on cinematography, even though he can't find his way in. Still another dang staircase. There you go.
Oh, jeez, this path.